Welcome back, folks, to the Get a Grip on Life podcast. On today's show, I got Freddy Fri. I'm super excited to talk to him. I just read his bio a couple times, and this is a crazy bio, so it's going to be a fun one. But hey, man, you ever think of starting a podcast? Come on, man. You're out there listening to this right now, mowing your lawn, and you think, man, it's always been on my bucket list. You got to go to getagripstudios.com, man. Check it out. Getagripstudios.com is a place where you can start your podcast for your business, for your personal life. You want to do some video content, go there. But for right now, we're going to talk to Freddy Fri. What's happening, Freddy?
Hey, what's going on? Everything's great. What's going on in your world?
Well, you know what? Summer's over up here. Where are you?
I am in Tulsa, Oklahoma, man.
Oh,
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Still warm down there, man. Canadian winter's
still
coming.
a little warm. Oh,
Okay.
man, it's still a little warm.
Tell me a little bit about the life transformer. I mean, that sounds really powerful to me. I know. I mean, everyone says I got to introduce people a little bit, but I just want to know what a life transformer is, man.
A life transformer is somebody who has been through a whole bunch and was able to come out of whatever they went through.
Mm.
And now they share their story. They're an open book. They're transparent because they were able to transform. So they hope that their story can help others transform. With a few tips, tricks, and hacks along the way, we try to help people go to another level and transform in their life. I do. That's what I do. That's what the life transformer is.
You know what's funny is that you just said that, right? You know who popped into my head when you were saying that is Mike Tyson.
Wow, Mike Tyson. I am Mike Tyson.
Yeah, man. I listened to him on a podcast because I listen to podcasts too, and I was listening to him, and he was talking some real truth, brother, about his struggles and his story. He was open about everything, man.
Yes.
And he just came out and he said, look, I was in my ego and I behaved like this and I did this and then I did that and I caused myself all kinds of problems. And but now you got to stay on the straight and narrow and you got to do it this way. Otherwise, you get tempted by these bad things. So as soon as you said that, I thought about that. And, you were telling me about that. So
he's doing a one-man show right now. And he's been in Vegas and all kind of stuff doing a one-man show. And people go and they say it's actually a phenomenal show. Yeah, that's basically what he's talking about.
They're expecting to see a clown or like a tragedy or something, and they actually find a man who has risen above, some of the tragedies in his own life, and is just simply sharing his story with people. It's beautiful.
Definitely, it is phenomenal story.
Iron Mike. So greatest champion next to Muhammad Ali for me is Mike Tyson.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree.
That guy was so dangerous, man. When he got in the ring,
well, and he has one of the most powerful quotes too, though. I mean, that teaches life. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. I mean, that is so true.
Sure.
That is so true. I coach basketball, and I tell people all the time, hey, I tell my players all the time, I'm like, listen, they may be big and strong with us, but everybody, and once they get hit in the mouth, let's see how they react.
Yeah.
And the same thing with us. So I love that. That's one of the most realest quotes ever is that one right there. I love it. Yeah.
Well, it's tough to plan for when Mike was in his prime. I don't know if anyone had a plan for that guy.
Yeah. I thought they did.
So I want to ask you this. So I've never heard a hip hop song in my life that had hope, perseverance, and inspiration in it.
Really?
Yeah, never, man. I mean, I like Biggie Smalls. I'm a little bit older. I'm 42. So I came up in the 90s. I like Biggie Smalls. I like Tupac. I mean, Life Goes On by Tupac was a bit of a tragic rap, but it was nice. It was like a nice rap song. But a lot of them are kind of, it's about consumerist narcissism, or it's about perpetuating a lifestyle that's impossible for the average person to reach in any community. Yes. I mean, I'm not talking about any community to live like that. And also it's perpetuating a lifestyle of that in some ways doesn't exist. Like rich people don't behave that way. Like people that actually,
very true. Yes.
People that have actually earned a lot of money don't throw it around and act crazy and do stupid things, So what is hip hop that has hope, perseverance, inspiration? Is it popular? Do people like it? Is it something that's out there?
It is something that's really growing right now because, as you know, the whole motivational realm is actually kind of exploding right now.
Okay.
But let me do this, because my story, basically, I use hip hop as a release. And in a
Okay.
lot of ways, I say hip hop saved my life because I tell my story through hip hop. So if you
Mm.
don't mind,
Go,
I'll show you
please.
what what it looks like or what it sounds
I
like,
can't
and
wait.
it's telling my story.
Sure.
So let's go for it. I tapped into my wildest dreams of being great. Demons threw their hook. I almost took the bait. Was hungry for success but couldn't get a plate. I wished for greatness early, but my genie only granted late. Mama sick. Doctor's diagnosis faulty. Prescriptions messed her kidneys up. That still haunts me. They told her not to have me, but she wouldn't abort. She said no, even if it cut her life short. In the car with mama slumping, daddy speeding. Final breath was taken, left my heart bleeding. I was age 4. My mommy got her wings early. I still question why she didn't live to see 30. Papa scooped me up and took me from the drama. At least it wasn't until he met my stepmama. Crazy as crazy does. She took the cake. I broke down because I felt I couldn't catch a break. Another tale of a lost soul. Studies said that I wouldn't live to be old. Shy boy, hoop dreams, word is so cold. They used to bully me, but then I finally struck gold. 1, 2, and you don't stop. I fell in love when I got introduced to hip hop. My new release, we all need a good release. When I put my pen to pad, it gave me total inner peace. So let me introduce the new me to me. Confidence erupted. I was truly thankful, blessed, no longer just a guest in my own mind. My friends, dig deep and you will find that greatness lives in you. So go retrieve it in your mind. Keep pushing through, be patient. It will happen in due time. See, the fish can only bite if you keep casting out your line. So believe in you, block out the shade, and let your sun shine on through. That's what it sounds like.
Woo! That was amazing, man. Oh, I'm
That's
so
what it
thankful
sounds
for
like.
that, man. That was beautiful,
Yes,
man.
sir. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And that's the early part of my life, pretty much in a nutshell. And it's amazing because I use that verse right there. That verse is a 1 hour keynote.
Hmm.
And so basically, I'll say that verse and I'll go a few bars and then I'll teach and I'll talk about my story and I'll tell people how it relates to their life and how it can help them transform. And then I'll jump back into the verse and then I'll go a few more bars and I'll stop at a teaching point and then I'll do the same thing. And by the time you look up, it's an hour keynote and people are like,
Yeah. Yeah, for
you
sure.
know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah,
and,
I
and
do.
that's a song that we're about to release off. I have an album. I have a guy with me. My best friend, his name is Daryl. We call him the Deekster. And I'm Player 1000 as the rapper, Player 1000 and the Deekster. We have an album called The Push Through that's coming out here in the next couple of months. And it's just about helping people push through every day of life, whether it's
Mm.
in school or whether it's what you're dealing with your job or whether it's wanting to work out, but it's just music that you can feel good to and you're
Yeah.
better after you listen to it. And what you were talking about with the majority of hip hop is when you listen to it, after you listen to it, most hip hop nowadays, you're a little less smart and a little more ignorant after you hear it. And
Mm.
that's what I'm trying to make sure when you hear a song of mine, you're a little bit better person after you listen to it.
Hey, you know what's funny about that? I think that keynote strategy is absolute genius, Freddie.
I
I'm
appreciate
serious. Like the way that you mix the rap because there's so I'm not even gonna call it rap. That's urban poetry or something,
that.
man.
I like that. I like that.
You know,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
something
yeah,
beautiful in that.
yeah,
Like I
yeah.
said, Tupac's "Life Goes On" is kind of a little bit of
Yes,
a
yes.
rap song like that.
Dear Mama, he has a few.
I ain't mad at you would be another one.
Yep, 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 yep. He does have a few.
So but like where you what you're doing in that sense is instead of tempting people with false consumerist narcissism, you're touching on, that life can be malevolent and tragic sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And I've been doing it a long time. And even when before I really tapped into the story of who I was, I used to use profanity and things of that nature. But if I go back to my older music, 90% of it had a message. You know what I mean? Where
Mm,
I was
sure.
actually saying I might have used cuss words or whatever, but it was something in there that was something that you could grow from and you could learn from. So
The
I just
light
took
the
it
light
now.
was there from the beginning. Yeah, the light
Yes,
was
it's
there.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
It's amazing. Look back.
so you're out there and who are you speaking to on a regular basis? Are you speaking to young men? Because I see you got the basketball coaching in here and that. Are you speaking to business people? Who's the target audience for this?
Yeah, my target. Honestly, I say it's everyday people. I do a lot of. I actually release 2 videos every week. I
Okay.
release one that's kind of more of a heartfelt and it's touching your heartstrings. It's basically talking about people dealing with relationships and dealing with everyday life.
Sure.
And so it's so funny because I like I can tell everything is growing. So on Facebook, I'm probably tapping into 30 plus.
30
But on
plus. Okay.
Instagram,
Mm.
it's probably 18 to 25. Because
Mm.
people are always in my inbox asking me for advice on how to deal with
Mm.
stuff. And
I
because I have
bet.
a Facebook group. Yeah, I have a Facebook group called the Wednesday Family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so people are always in my inbox, this happened, this happened, this happened. These are typically older people. Well, the people that are in my inbox and Instagram are typically young people, college, school.
Sure.
And so I'm listening to what they're saying. I'm like, what's so funny though, is both of the stories, they're almost the same.
Yeah. They're all in the
The
struggle.
questions are almost the same. Yeah. It's always, my friend did this, or my boyfriend did this, or my girlfriend did this, or it's kind of the same type of stuff.
Sure.
No matter the age. And that's kind of you catch me at Herbalife. Matter of fact, this weekend I'm going to Detroit for the Vision Conference, or you can catch me at talking to a college basketball team.
Mm.
That's how my audience ranges, So
Well,
I'm an open book.
your message has legs. It can go anywhere,
Yes,
because
yes.
all of us, it's funny because a lot of people, when they're filled with envy, okay. So like, and I think rap and social media, you're using it for positive things, but often these media types, whether it's the music or it's the network, the social network, exists to perpetuate envy in others or to push others or make them feel bad about themselves in some ways,
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah, for sure.
And what I'm thinking about, I'm listening to it, you're using it for something else, but your message is transferable very simply in that all people, you could be rich and be miserable. You can be poor and full of
Yes.
hope.
Yes. That is so true. And my message though is that it starts in the mind.
Mm.
See, I was broke. I was broken mentally, and I woke up one day. I was 25 years old. I had 4 kids out of wedlock by the same female. Where I come from the hood, and typically the female is always going to raise the kids. Even we weren't together, but I would go visit the kids and pick them up. But I never thought in my mind that I would be raising them. And then I woke up age 27, had an epiphany. And I've been always in trouble with the law. I had sold crack cocaine. I was just doing all kind of little hustles as I was trying to get this music off the ground.
Sure.
And I woke up and I was like, ooh, like just staring at the ceiling. Everything in my life changed like overnight. And I always think it was my cerebral cortex developed overnight.
Sure, maybe.
That controls your reasoning. And I could just see all the error in my ways. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God. I knew I was in a deep hole financially. I knew I put myself in a bad place. But I was free. And the first thing that came into my mind was, I got to gain custody of my children. Never it came into my mind ever before that. My kids were living in the ghetto. I kind of got out of it. I was living in a better environment. I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment. I was in a better environment. And I had that epiphany. Everything changed for me. And next thing I know, I'm raising 4 kids by myself, single dad. Kids were 7, oldest was 7, youngest was 3. Wow. And I had 3 girls and a boy, and I'm trying to do hair and all kind of crazy stuff.
I got 3 girls and a boy too.
Hey, salute. But I'm just saying, man, you just have to make that adjustment. You have to put yourself in a position for the epiphany to happen. And a lot of times people get to living so careless that they never stop and say a prayer, and never stop and try to make things better and give themselves a chance for the universe to tap into them. You have to give yourself a chance for the universe and that's what so it goes back to what I was saying was it's all mental. So once I woke up and had an epiphany, financially, I was still in a bad place, and I knew it was going to take me a long time to climb out of the hole. But mentally, I was wealthy at that time. So I never felt bad or down. I knew it was going to take me time to clean up my mess. I started slowly cleaning up my mess. I figured out the message in my mess. So whether you rich, whether you poor, if you mentally find a way to be stable and mentally find a way to be rich, then you're never broke, and you never can be broken.
I actually have a technical way that you can do that.
Oh, I'm listening.
Okay. So I'm trying to remember the guy's name who told me this many years ago. And I got another point. I love you, dude. You're just like I'm writing notes, trying to think in so many different directions I can go here. But one of the things, you know what a net worth statement is, right? So how much money you have and, your liabilities, and you put this up. Net worth statements should be broken into 4 columns. Okay. One of which is financial. The other 3 are your faith, your friends, and your family. And so you got to do statements of net worth for all 4 of those sections.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Right? So if you're going to look at a net worth statement, if your net worth is this and you're not talking to your daughter anymore and you're divorced from your wife and you're estranged from your parents and you don't have any friends and you don't have any faith. I'm not saying you got to be a Christian or whatever, but you don't have some sort of, something that guides you in your daily moral decisions, and you don't have any friends. You're broke, buddy.
Yes, you're broke. You're so true. That's so right. So right. Yes.
So
I like
it's like
that, though.
4 columns, man. Finances is one of them.
Yeah, you know what? One of them. Yeah.
And I'll tell you this: if you asked everybody in the world, and if you made them do those 4 columns, and you said which one are you going to give up first, they're going to say bye to their money for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're going to hang. A good person's going to hang on to their family, their friends, and their faith, man.
Yes, and you're right. They should. They should.
For sure.
But those are the quickest things that people lose when they get money.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And then they have to come back. They try to come back to it.
Yeah.
Instead of along the way finding out how to make sure, like you said, all 4 they're wealthy in all 4 columns along the way. But sometimes you get wealthy financially and you've neglected those other 3 columns. And you have to find a way to go back to them.
A lot of that happens with professional athletes and these young guys. Like I really, what really bothers me sometimes is when you see an athlete, whether it's a basketball player, hockey player, football player, whatever it is, and they get judged so hard by the media because they're in the limelight or whatever. A lot of people forget that that's a 19-year-old boy, man.
You're right. You're right.
Or a 22-year-old boy. And they forget about what Freddie and Mikey were up to when they were 19 and 21. They're judging these guys. You see it all the time. And it's like, it's like they're not allowed to have a mental illness. They're not allowed to be depressed a little bit. They're not allowed to get down. They're not allowed to have struggles with their wives or their kids and all that. I want to ask you something else. You mentioned it when you were telling me about waking up and saying, I need custody of my kids. You're in this, I'm broke, but this is something that I need to do. Is acceptance of fatherhood for men transformational for them? Like the acceptance of the role of a father. Like there's something transformational about that in a man. When he says, I am the father, I need to take care of my kids.
Yes, for me it is, because I think that if you tap into the real meaning of it. Some people are just like, that's my kid, and they have their chest out. And they're not really being a father. But if you tap into the real meaning, the true essence of it, and become a true provider, whether you're with the mother or not, it is transformational, because it makes you stop and think before you make certain decisions. When you really use it the way it's supposed to be used. For me, when I gained custody of my kids, I stopped doing music, and I was like I was on the cusp of blowing up. We had a national distribution deal. There was a lot of things going on, but all of a sudden I started losing the hunger and losing the passion, losing the fire to write raps and all that, because I started gaining the fire and gaining the passion, and my new why transferred from being hip hop to being my children. And so for me, it was very therapeutic. It was very transformational, and I still had a lot of flaws and a lot of things that I had to grow and learn along the way. And some of them I didn't learn until my kids were out of the house. But I knew when I gained custody, my main job was to keep my children out of harm's way.
The bingo. I want to make a point.
Yes.
I want to make a point.
Yes.
I think the word provider is a bad word when you talk about fatherhood, right? I think it's makes men feel like they're bank machines or something for their kids.
True.
You know what I mean? I think a better word, which incorporates provider, but doesn't minimize, is protector. A father is the protector of his kids, dude.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
He
I like
keeps them
that.
safe, especially the
Yes.
girls, man. I got 3 girls. You got
Yes.
3 girls.
Yes. And that was the thought process I had. I said, you know what? It's a cruel world out here. I grew up in the heart of North Tulsa, which is the hood. I've seen a lot. I want to keep my kids out of that environment. When I gained custody, I went so crazy how the universe works, though, because once I had the epiphany, about a week later, their mom called. She lived in what they call early Turley, and it was like a really bad neighborhood. Really, people, drugs being sold, people getting killed, bad environment. She called me and asked me if I could keep the kids for a little bit. I was like, yeah, I can get them. I only had a 1-bedroom apartment though, 4 babies. And I said, I'll get
I'm
them.
laughing at you, but I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine not having my wife because I had a 7, 6, 4, and baby too, man. So
it's crazy. So I get them right, and so I'm stressing. They're excited. They get to sleep on a pallet. Not a care in the world. I learned so much from them kids,
Sure.
And so we're trying to get by, you know what I mean? I'm doing my little oddie and hustles and things that I was doing back then. I was actually generating a little money from music. And she calls me about a week later. Okay, I'm a little bit better. Can you bring the kids back? I said, I'll bring them back under one condition. She said, what's that? I said, well, if you call me and ask me to keep them again, I'm going to go ahead and keep them. I'll keep them full time. And she didn't believe me. She's like, oh, okay, yeah. Because
Sure.
we come from the hood. So that's just not the way it works. And so I take them back, and I get a call from one of her friends. And like, you really need to get those kids. They're really seeing a lot of negativity. It's a lot of bad things going on in the environment. Lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, she calls me back again. She said, well, how can you get them again? I'm kind of going through another rough patch. I said, I get them. But remember what we talked about? Oh, yeah, whatever. Soon as I went and picked them up, I immediately went and withdrew them from the school that they were in. Now, mind you, I didn't have any ID. I had nothing that was saying I was really the father. Sure. They just probably thought, okay, there's no black guy that's going to come and take 3 kids out of school that's not his,
Yeah, sure.
They did have my last name, though. But, and so I took them and enrolled them in another school, got them going. They were, actually, the teachers from the school they were at were actually really excited for them. I told them the school I was taking them to, and they were like, man, that's a really good school. They're going to do great at that school. Took them out, enrolled them in the school. He calls me back a week later. Can you bring the kids back? It's like, they don't even go to the same school anymore. It's like, what? I said, yeah, I told you I was going to go ahead and keep them. We have a long conversation. And, I just told her, hey, I'm in a little bit better place than you. Go ahead and work on yourself. And the day may come where it's better for them to come back to you. And she reluctantly agreed. And and it's so crazy. I raised them all the way until they were adults. And later on in life, they would go visit her a little bit. And I don't know if that was the best thing for them, but they did. And they got old enough to make that decision. But and we did what I call I gained what I call hood custody, because we never went to court.
Yeah, sure.
There was never any court involved, And yeah, that was the start of it. But I gained. That's how I got custody of my children. And the crazy thing is, I knew I made the right decision, because a few weeks after I officially got hood custody. Yeah. Her boyfriend was murdered. Her boyfriend was murdered in that same environment. And so it just made me realize I really had made the right decision. And so we just started the trek of trying to better them, and me trying to stay as legal as I could and do the right things by them. And by the grace of God, we made it through. All 4 of them graduated from high school, and I taught them a lot of life lessons. And some of them right now, they're all out and doing their thing and learning and growing.
That's a beautiful story, Freddie. And yeah, man, it touches me, man. I'm just getting a little bit emotional here on that one, because it's also, I hate to say it, but it strikes me as too uncommon.
You're right. Very uncommon. Very uncommon. But for me, I always look at the universe, and I always look at, my mom died when I was 4 years old. And my dad could have had me go stay with my auntie. He could have had me go stay with my grandmother. But he decided to man up and take care of his responsibility and protect me for the most part. And that's what he did. And little did I know, his act would set me up for my act. You know what I mean? You understand what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. You kind of inherited that.
Yes. I mean, so he showed me the way. And so what I was able to do from him, I was able to take the things that I liked, that I thought were appropriate about the situation, because my dad, I think he was even more old school. So he
Sure.
really never thought he would be raising a kid by himself. And he worked like a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't work a job. I was a hustler. I was an entrepreneur type guy. And but he brought a stepmother into my life. You know, my stepmother was a stepmother. You know the phrase, treat you like a stepchild. I was Cinderella. You know what I mean? Not Cinderella, I was Cinderella, you know?
Yeah.
And so when I gained custody, I thought back to that and I was like, listen, I know I'm gonna date, but I'm never gonna bring a female into my kid's life trying to make her raise them.
Yeah.
Or be their mother. And so I learned not to do that, because she wasn't physically abusive, but she was very mentally abusive. She was a alcoholic. She did drugs, and she was broken. That's the reality of it. She went through some things in her life, I'm sure,
She
that
needed
broke
Freddy
her.
Fri's message now.
She needed it, you know what I mean? But we had to go through all of it so I could give it to the world. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So you're so right. It is very uncommon. But in my situation, I was prepared. I was scared, but I was prepared. That's one of the phrases I say a lot when I'm speaking. I was scared, but I was prepared. I didn't realize how prepared I was, but I was.
You're talking about being a dad.
Yes, talking about being a dad, and a lot of different phases of my life. I was scared, but I did enough to be prepared. But definitely being a dad.
You know what's interesting? I often talk to people. I'm very interested in, like, I don't know, the words are funny, like you say spirituality or what, but I think you know what I mean when I say that.
Yes, definitely,
right?
Definitely.
And I have this theory about emotions, right? Right? So I don't think emotions are bad or good. I think they're benign messages from the universe calling your attention to something, right?
I totally agree.
So if you're scared or you're anxious, which are kind of like two different emotions, but they come together a lot, I think what the universe is telling you is watch out very carefully right now. Mind your behavior now. Keep a sharp eye. You know what I'm saying? That's what the universe is telling. There's danger around you, or there's something needs to be addressed. So you shouldn't run from it, but be very careful when you step forward in what you do. And I think that, like, when you took your kids from your wife and you took them out of the school, you probably had a certain demeanor about yourself. You were very careful in how you spoke. And that was that anxiety telling you, just be careful here, man. Don't go crazy. You know, don't do anything stupid. So I think if anybody's listening to this, I mean, fear and anxiety are good signals from the universe that you need to listen to, not run from.
I like that. And let me expound on that also too. They also can be false too. You can also be ready to do something great and have this fear and this anxiety, and you need to go ahead and do it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So you got the fear and anxiety of doing something, like you said, something that is going to put everybody in harm's way. You got to be careful. You also have that fear and anxiety that may stop you from doing something that would be in your wheelhouse, that would be your gift, and you have to step outside of your comfort zone and jump and leap anyway. Because that happened to me. You know, I was a shy, introverted kid. I could never have imagined having this conversation with you candidly when I was a kid. But I had to overcome my fear. And so yeah, I love that. That's it works both ways. You know what I mean? And you just have to, us as humans, we have to decipher what type of fear is this. Is this the real fear and anxiety?
Is it imposter syndrome, like some kind of imposter syndrome that my self-esteem is telling me I'm not good enough to do this? Nobody's going to like you. What are you doing? You don't belong there. Nobody cares what you think. You're just a loser from the ghetto or from, you know, wherever. Yeah.
Exactly. All the stuff a lot of that stuff was instilled in us. You know what I mean? But I think my stepmom, she was so mentally abusive, and she talked so crazy to not only me, but her own children and everything. I think that kind of had me a little bit subdued. And then I went to school and I was short and I got bullied and I was shy. You know what I mean? I was smart, and I'll play basketball. I was an athlete. I played football and basketball, but I was still shy. The teacher would ask me to answer a question. I was smart, so they knew I would probably get it right. But if there was an opportunity for me not to speak, I would definitely decline. I would respectfully decline.
Mm.
And for me, everything changed for me when I got, I don't know how old I was, but I know I was watching TV at night one night, and it was a show came on called Night Tracks, and they played a group called Run DMC.
Sure.
It was a song called Rock Box, and it just changed my whole life. I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a rapper. I want to be a rapper. And so I went to my dad, asked him to give me some music equipment, and I said, I want to be the DJ. I want to be the rapper. I want to do everything. And so he got me some equipment for Christmas one year, and I started rewriting their raps. They were the king of rock. I was the king of rap. And I was doing it basically for myself. Only me and my friends knew. Now, I never had no plans to be in front of people because I was too shy and introverted to do it. I wanted to, but I just was scared. I had fear. And I got to about the 9th grade, and this guy named Ernest Walker, a friend of mine from the neighborhood, he said, man, having a talent show at our school. Said, I know you got the equipment. I know you write raps. I want to be in a talent show. Why don't you be in a talent show with me? I was like, huh? You mean you get in front of people, get on stage in front of people? And I said, no, sir. No, sir. Dude, how they say persistence overrides resistance. For the next 14 days, that dude came over my house, and I had my guard up. I had my Ernest Walker repellent on full blast. Day 2, you gonna do it? No. Day 3, you gonna do it? No. Day 4, you gonna do it? No. All the way to day 14. And day 14, he must attack me from a different angle with it. And I don't know. Maybe I broke. Maybe I really wanted to do it. But he was like, man, I came over 14 days straight. You're not gonna tell me no more. Tell me no anymore. He said, stop acting like a little old punk and do it.
So he was your pusher man.
He was my pusher man. He believed in me before I believed in myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, did he just call me a punk? Before I knew it, I was like, leave me alone, I'll do it. Changed my whole life.
Wow.
Changed my whole life. Just by doing that. And I remember it. And it wasn't even a talent show. The first thing we just did the tryout. And when I got up there and that beat came on, I had that anxiety. I had that fear. It was only probably about 20 people in the audience, and they were just the people trying out. It felt like 20,000. And so that beat came on, and I was like, call me Mr. Chiller, don't call me at all. This is the same exact rap I said. When I'm on the mic, I'm standing tall. I'm 5'4" when I'm talking to you, but when I'm on the mic, I'm 7'2". Being on the mic made me tall. I was tall. Everything in my life changed. All the shyness went away. The confidence came. Personality erupted. Everybody started knowing my name. I went from being shy and introverted to one of the most popular kids in my school. And I went to one of the most grimiest hood of school, and that I was getting bullied at. All of a sudden, the bullies became my protectors, and all because that's why I say hip hop saved my life, because I tapped into my dream. I tapped into what I was born to do and use my gift. And man, that's why I tell anybody out there: figure out what you're great at, and don't be afraid to step into your greatness. Don't be afraid to step into your greatness. It may take some time, and you may have to move a few things around to start working on it. Sure. But you got something. My cousin, his name is Willie. He's a naturally funny dude. He's been funny his entire life. And I'm a motivational speaker. So I'm like, dude, you need to do comedy. It's a natural for you.
You're an inspirational speaker, man.
Thank you. Inspirational. Change that.
Yeah. Motivational has too much baggage. You're inspirational,
there you
man,
go.
For sure.
Definitely. But I talked to him, me and D, my best friend D, we have this little circle, and we finally talked him into doing comedy. He went and took a comedy class. It's like, well, have you ever did comedy before? It's like, no, I've never did it before. And he hadn't, but he learned just about a little quick class, one of the little comedy places.
Sure.
And so he did his first thing of comedy. This was maybe a month ago. And he just murdered it. He just did phenomenal.
Oh, it was people laughed. He didn't crash and burn.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. It was just like he was a natural. He did so good. And I was there. If I wasn't there to see it myself, I wouldn't have believed it. Because we had just practiced with him the day before, and he was horrible. He was horrible, and he went out on that stage, but he was naturally himself. And the people just knew they were like, okay, listen, you can't sit up and tell us you've never did comedy before. But he was operating within his gift.
Sure.
And that's why I tell people, when you're operating in your gift, it becomes easy for you. You put in the work, you learn the culture, you learn the dynamics, you learn the ins and outs of whatever you're doing. And then once you do it and you put the you factor in it, you put you into it, and that's your natural gift, you have an opportunity to go to another level that you've never dreamed it was possible for yourself. It's possible. Us out here like you and me, you're doing this great podcast. I'm doing the things I'm doing. We are not robots. We are real human beings.
For sure.
You know what I
With
mean? And
fears,
so if
with
we can do it,
doubts, everything, man.
yes, with problems,
Failures.
yes, failure, setbacks. If we can do it, you can do it. We just out here trying to become the best versions of ourselves, and we may be on the trek to it a little more than most. All you gotta do is get up and start doing. Stop talking and do more. Do. Stop talking and do. So
It's
yeah.
funny. It's funny. Talk about operating in your gift. There's all these different words. Vocation is another word that comes up, like what you're called to do, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think everybody kind of knows when they're violating their vocation. You kind of feel it. Your conscience comes, and you can feel when you're not doing you should quit that job, or you should do this thing, or whatever it is. And that doesn't mean that you're going to be successful at it, but maybe there's some failure in that you need.
Oh yeah. Wow. That's where the best growth comes from, man.
Yeah. Like sometimes you need to. Failures are like gifts, and they're not victories. Like people like to say, "Oh, failures are little victories on the way." I don't know, man. A lot of my failures, and what's funny is I'm not ready to tell my testimony yet. I'm scared of it in a way, but
yes,
you know what? It's like I really respect that you're able to just speak to the times in your life when you weren't being the man you wanted to be. That's tough, man. I like to talk to people about that, but for me, it's tough to kind of do it. But when you say like a fatherhood or being a husband, and what these things that are deeply part of the human experience, these things are vocations. It doesn't mean that you're father of the year. What it means is that you don't give up.
You learn and don't give up.
Yeah,
I love
dude.
it. I love it.
You don't
I love
give
it. I
up,
love it.
And that's what your message is. And this Wednesday, I really love that, Freddie. Tell me more about the Wednesday.
Oh,
Not Wednesday,
man.
Wednesday.
No, WINS. Every day you're winning. And it's so funny because I got this shirt on right now. I don't know if you can see it. But it says I am unbreakable. And it says make every day a Wednesday. You know what I mean? Underneath it. But that came from music. I had someone had sent me a video of E.T., Dr. Eric Thomas. And I started watching it and started kind of binge watching. I've always been into motivational stuff. I always loved Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins and Les Brown and some of the heavyweights in the speaking industry. And I would always listen to their teachings and try to apply them in my life. But so I started kind of getting into Eric Thomas. And as I was watching, it was a Thank God It's Monday video. And so I was writing a song, and I always wanted to add value and give back because I was blessed to coach basketball, coach my kids, and become really, really well respected in the community of youth basketball, and turn that into a business. And so as the kids got a little bit older, I started a company called Court Time Events, and it's my business, and I generate income. So I was always wanting to give back. And so when I saw Eric Thomas's videos, I just happened to be writing a song. And I got to a line, I got stuck on a line. I said, kick it with your boys like a sensei. And I had to stop, and I was like, okay, what word rhymes with sensei? and then Wednesday came to my mind, but at that time I was thinking just like the regular day of the week.
Sure.
I said, okay, Wednesday rhymes. I said, okay, maybe Wednesday is hump day. And then all of a sudden it hit me, okay, I said it again. I said, Wednesday, wins. I said, oh, I'm not going to say it like the day of the week. I'm going to say it like Wednesday, like WINS. Yeah. And so then I was like, kick it with your boys like a sensei, climb the hump, and make every day a Wednesday. Instead of the hump being the normal Wednesday week, the hump is the obstacles in your life.
Sure.
The drama in your life, the setbacks in your life, the failures in your life. When you climb over those, you can little by little make every day a small win until you ultimately win in your life. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna create videos. ET is doing them on Monday. I'm gonna do them on Wednesday. And so I started creating this series called Make Every Day a Wednesday. And that's just been my mantra ever since. And everything is about helping people overcome their obstacles and overcome the stress, the dramas and stresses of their life, and find a way to make every day a Wednesday, WINS. And so ultimately win the day so you can win at life.
You know what? I think that's so brilliant. And You know why? Because it's simple. Like it's not.
Yes.
It's not simple. It's elegant. That's the right word for it.
Mm,
Right? It's not
appreciate that.
simple. It's elegant because I think so many people in the world, like there seems to be two kinds of people. There's people that are celebrating every victory they've had publicly and everything like that. And then there's most of us, we're not celebrating ourselves every day. Like I'm
Mm,
not talking about making a party for yourself, but just,
yeah.
saying to yourself, you know what? Hey, I did that. That was good.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
What I did was good.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. I totally get it because I do that from time to time, but just to me, you know what I
Yeah,
mean. I don't have to make a spectacle about everything that
sure.
I do, and because I just think for me, I always told myself I've never been money driven, and I think that's why I've been blessed to succeed because I genuinely try to give from the heart,
Mm.
and sometimes to a fault. But I think that in the long run, the universe comes back and blesses you when you give freely, not looking for a return. And so when I started doing the videos, next thing I know, Eric Thomas himself is liking my videos and inviting me to be part of his Game Changers
Yeah.
program, and and quoting my speeches and saying, hey, pointing directly at me and say, man, I really feel what you're doing. Keep doing it. And so now I'm an Eric Thomas certified speaker. This last past July, I went and shadowed him in Las Vegas at a conference called Thrive, and so very well connected. And from just those videos, me pouring into other people and giving back and learning and spending my own money and producing these videos each and every week for the last 3 years, I was able to parlay that into becoming a motivational voiceover actor. And so now I'm
Yeah,
on a
you
whole
have a
bunch of
nice voice.
voiceover.
You actually
Well, I
have a,
appreciate that.
yeah, no, your voice is nice. I could totally see that for sure.
Yeah, and so it's just the things that have come out of it. I'm on one with Denzel Washington called "Give Thanks and Show Gratitude," well over 50 million views. I'm on videos with Eric Thomas and Les Brown and Zig Ziglar and Gary Vee and all
Yeah,
kind of people, just because I decided one day to give back to other people. You
sure.
know, and I just think people will always say. You kind of asked me earlier, what is your almost like what is your niche? And I think for me, I since I don't actively really pursue speaking gigs, they come, but I don't actively pursue them. I just kind of still look at it the same way. I get up and I make 2 videos every week, and I release them Wednesdays and
No,
Fridays. Today I have
the
one out
reason
coming
the
out.
reason why the reason why you get speaking gigs, and I'm just sitting here and I'm listening to
Yes.
you, is because you're showing people what they want. And when you show
Mm,
people what they want, they'll move mountains to get it, man. That's why.
wow.
Like,
Wow.
you know
Appreciate
what I
that.
mean? They like your
I get it.
message
I
is
get it. I
positive.
receive it.
It's positive,
Yeah.
man. Let me ask you about this. So we talked a little bit about emotions, and then you brought it up. I think that the for me, now that I'm 42. I don't know how old you are, but in the second sort of half, I call it after 40. But as an adult, as a father, as a business owner, entrepreneur, podcaster, um, what I've discovered is that of all the emotions that I can feel, the one I enjoy the most is gratitude. Like
Mm,
when I'm invoking gratitude and I'm thankful, like, it's like I'm thankful I met Freddy Fri, buddy. Like when I
I'm thankful I
feel
met
that,
you too, bro. Yes.
I
Yes.
feel that, it's the best
Yes.
feeling. It's like
Yes.
you
Yes.
feel blessed.
I love that. I love that. I totally agree because I think once you understand and you do feel that gratitude and thankful for what you have, you realize, like you said, how blessed you are.
Yes.
Because you can look. I tell people all the time, you think you got it bad. You can look
Sure.
right around the corner and realize, like I live on a block, three houses down, someone's house completely burned down.
Sure.
You know
You
what I
don't
mean?
you don't have to go too far in Toronto to find hell on earth, dude.
Yes, very true.
You
That's
understand
the
what I
point.
mean?
That's the exact point right there.
You,
Yes,
you can just walk in
definitely.
downtown Toronto and you'll see a guy lying on a crate, great,
Wow.
sleeping on I hate to say this, but Toronto has a lot of homeless people sleeping on a
Yes.
grate. And you know what's interesting about that? When someone's in hell, when they're completely desperate, but no one will look at them. Yeah.
Wow.
You understand what I
Oh yeah,
mean?
yeah. 'Cause you try to avoid the eye contact. People, if
Yeah.
they're not going to help you. They're trying to. So you got people all day trying to avoid making eye contact with you.
You're in hell, buddy.
Yes, yes, that's true. Man, yeah. No,
And
right. It takes a
and
special person to
yeah,
want
or
to not avoid.
I drove through Overtown, Miami. I think it's called Overtown, Miami, a long time ago, and I was blown away at the vastness of American ghettos, like how big they are.
Mm. Well, for us in Tulsa, 50,000 people that live in North Tulsa. And that's where our ghetto is. And I used to be in the projects. The small apartments where low income housing where people were selling drugs and doing all kind of ungodly things. Not saying they don't do them everywhere in other places, but it was just rampant.
Sure.
And it is vast, but when you're in the midst of it, like I went to the lowest performing school in the state, and you don't even realize it. And I tell people now, I was like, listen, especially in those type of environments, you're living in 1% of the world.
Sure.
And sometimes people get okay. That 1% becomes 100% to them because they become so comfortable and so
Sure.
complacent with that lifestyle. And I was like, listen, get out and live a little bit more. Go
Yeah.
see more things. There's a
Sure.
bigger world out here. Once you've been drinking dirty water for so long, once you get a taste of that clean, it's hard to go back to that dirty. But you have to get them to take a drink of the clean first.
Yeah, it's
Sometimes
exactly.
that's the hardest part.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You,
Yeah.
you know, I lived in Belfast, Northern Ireland, okay, in the late 90s. And
Okay.
that's when the bombs were going off and all that kind of stuff. And people were
Oh,
killing
wow.
each other. It was real tense. And what's interesting so in America, you have like, maybe we can talk about this if you're okay with it, because I have some questions about it. But you have like this divide on race, black and white, right? So there's people who are white,
Yes.
there's people who are black, and there's this divide, and there's like this, civil rights and all this kind of thing. But in Belfast, the people are actually ethnically the same,
Mm.
right? There's no ethnic difference or racial difference between them, whatever word you want to use. They
Yes.
have different religions, right?
Mm.
So they're both Christians. So one of them is Protestant and the other one is Catholic. Okay.
Okay.
And these people are Irish people. They speak the same. They look the same. They're red hair, blonde hair, brown hair, white, green eyes, blue eyes, brown eyes. They're white. They're white people. Okay.
Okay.
But they have deep hatred for one another based on religious lines. Okay. And I would sit with them and they would ask me questions like, are you British Canadian or French Canadian? Like, I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but the Canadians listening to this will laugh their heads off. There's no such thing as a British Canadian. You know what I mean? And, they would say, like, as soon as all the Catholics had left, they would start making fun of Catholics and saying bad things about Catholics. And then as soon as all the Protestants left, because I had friends on both sides, they would start making fun of Protestants. And they would to each other's faces, they were, civil, but behind each other's backs. Like I'd be in the university and you'd go to the washroom, and as soon as you shut the bathroom door stall, it's loaded with graffiti about Catholics and Protestants and, but you open the door, everything's clean. But behind that closed door is the dark soul of hatred. You understand?
Wow.
When they have their chance to lash out, Catholics this or, Protestants that or whatever. And I said to them, I said, you know what? They would tell me, oh, the Troubles, and they did this to us 10 years ago. We did this, and they did this, and we did this, going back 300 years now, right? Of settling scores, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Wow.
They're settling scores.
Settling score.
Yeah, and it's endless, right? I said to them, you got to get the hell out of Belfast, man. If you go to Toronto and you start talking like this, people are going to think you're crazy, man. Like completely insane. These Catholics will be like, what are you talking about? You're talking about Catholic people? You mean like the religion? Yeah. What are you talking about? They did what to you? Like, what are you talking? They need, like, if you're in that environment and you're in some kind of cycle of negativity where you're thinking negative thoughts, you got to get the hell out of that environment and just taste
like
the
you
water.
Said, taste the water. Get some of that clean water. So much of this, I look at life now, and me and my buddies talk about all the time, how many things were just learned behavior.
Sure.
That as you get older, you realize, that don't make any sense. Why do we do that? And then you start making the necessary adjustments if you allow yourself to open your mind up enough. Like the whole race thing, when realistically, we're all human. We're all humans. One really, really just one race. But like you said, they were the same people, which we all are really the same people, but they read the Bible different.
Yeah, like some stupid.
It's the same book, right?
No, but it's settling. They're just settling scores on these instead of on racial lines. It's on religious lines.
Exactly.
And it's
because of interpretations, probably of what they think. It's the same Bible, but somebody okay, well, this means this over here. No, this doesn't mean this. This means that. So now we're going to become. What do you say that you had the Protestants and the Catholics?
Yeah.
So this made them become Catholic. This made them become Protestant. And so now they're beefing. They're into it, and it's that.
I think it's worse than that. I actually think it's worse than that. I think a lot of these conflicts. And I'm going to take the U.S. civil rights struggle and put it aside because I think that's different. That's a different situation. Because chattel slavery in the United States was probably the most heinous thing that ever happened in the history of the world.
Yes.
So, and like one of the things that I find offensive to me, and I'm just a white Canadian dude who's 42, is when people try to align other struggles with that. There's absolutely nothing in modern human history. Oh, we're all descended from slaves. And the Roman slaves and the Germanic slaves, it wasn't the same thing as the dehumanizing chattel slavery of the American continent. There was nothing I would put the First Nations people in that camp as well. But when other rights movements try to align themselves with that, I find that's deeply offensive to the.
Do you think that? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you think the difference probably is that in some cases, some people didn't have a choice. You know what I mean? When it came to the slavery you're talking about, you just didn't have a choice. They went and got you, and that's what you did.
Not only that though, but they're okay. And I mean, I don't want to be controversial here, but if you say finally, gay people can be out of the closet and be open about their lifestyle, and this is another form of discrimination, just like black on white discrimination. It's like. I'm not so sure about that. Actually, I think that's aligning themselves. That's like saying, to me, it's kind of like saying, I don't know. It's kind of like comparing this tragedy to the Holocaust. You know what I mean?
No, I get it. I get it.
It's like the scope of the two things is different, and so, I lost my train of thought there, but I mean, the idea that, some of these issues where people are in negative environments and they have negative self-thoughts, or they have negative thoughts about other groups of people, where people are failing to be individuals to them, right? So if in your mind, if somebody, Freddie, that you're coaching or whatever, is in their mind is talking about white people or black people or Asian people or this, and they're referring to them as a group that doesn't contain individuals, you have someone that needs to go meet some of those people and talk to them a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
And get out of their environment. I wanted to ask you something. In the 90s, I grew up in an area of Toronto that was very, very diverse. So most of my school, my brother was the only white kid in his class. Okay. And I was probably one of 2 or 3 white kids. And the rest of them were... rest of the people were either Asian, from Central and South America, or African Canadian, whatever you want to call it. Black people.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what to say. How do you say what the correct word? You know what I mean, right? And so I had lots of friends, and I lived close to like an area, a Toronto ghetto, which is not like an American ghetto. They're much smaller in size. They're maybe half a kilometer by half a kilometer, say. Okay, much smaller.
So would you you walk from one to you be in a ghetto, in a Canadian ghetto, and then walk right out of it into something affluent?
Yeah, what they did was they popped them in areas all around Toronto. They didn't let it accumulate into one big area. So they would build special housing projects in the middle of affluent, or not middle class areas, and it would have maybe 300 homes, and that would be it.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's different.
And they build another one over here, another one over here. So it was kind of different. So you could be close to it. But anyway, I knew, when I felt like there was less racial tension then in the 90s than there is today. I feel like today, the tension that exists politically in the United States and the tension that exists between these various groups is actually heating up. in some ways rather than getting worse. And I don't know what it is. Is it because people can't see one another as individual humans? Is it because people can hide behind these social networking worlds where they put themselves into a kind of a news feed that's only what they want to, what they think they want to hear? What is it today with that negativity?
I think now I will say this, just knowing where I come from and where I've grown up, I definitely don't think it's as bad as it was. I just think that we have way more access to information very, very fast. So anything that happens, we know about really quick. But in terms of the average person teaching their kid racism, not nearly as bad as it used to be.
Really?
You still have some, but not nearly. I mean, my children. My children.
People are more accepting now of racial diversity.
Oh, yes. Like my company is super diverse. Like the teams that I get are like, if I try to do the tournaments that I do 25, 30 years ago, it's no way I would have the type of diversity that I have.
Wow.
And people know that I'm the owner, and this is just in Tulsa. So overall, it's much better. I just think that when you look at things, okay, say it like this. When was it when they had the white supremacy? They kind of had their little, whether the guy ran over the people.
Oh, it was Charlottesville.
Charlottesville.
Yeah.
That was, that type of stuff is happening. But think about 50, 60 years ago. That stuff was happening all the time.
Sure.
Like now, if it happens once, it's this huge thing. When 50, 60 years ago, it was happening everywhere. Cross burnings, you know what I mean? Ku Klux Klan walking down. Sure. It was, so now it's different. It's still a lot of tension. Don't get me wrong, but it's more tension related to isolated incidents because it's like, this shouldn't be happening at all.
So it stands out so much because it's rare. Yes.
There you go. Yes. And it makes it seem like, man, everything's bad. But no, it's not nearly as bad because you go back 40, 50 years ago.
Sure.
We had to fight to go to a school with Caucasian people.
Sure.
We had parents. The parents, when they tried to integrate schools, were throwing tomatoes at the grown people.
Sure. Yeah, like me, like someone like me going to my kid's school.
Like you throwing tomatoes. I don't want my kid to think about that. So no, it still exists, but like it's just the when it happens, it's like, whoa, it's still happening. Yeah, it's still happening, but not.
I have a bit of a theory about racism and sexism and stuff like this. A lot of people have this either or idea that people are either racist or they aren't, and I think it's more of a spectrum. Right? I think, yeah. So I think all of us are on the racist spectrum, me and you. Okay.
Okay.
In that inside of us, there's some biological preference to be with those who look like us. Okay. And that would be 1 out of 10. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's like we're built that way. So like people are kind of like, and you can see it in Toronto. Toronto's an extremely diverse city. There's areas where Chinese people live. There's areas where Southeast Asians live, and they kind of come together. There's areas where Armenians people, and they have their community center, and they kind of gather together, and birds of a feather flock together. And if you see these different communities, they live in different areas, and that doesn't mean they don't go to school together. They don't mix, but they just tend to kind of go together. That would be a 1. Okay. And then on the 10 side, you have the asshole in Charlottesville. Okay. He's a 10.
He just lets it come. He lets it come all out. It just,
He's willing to kill people and shame himself and his family in order to perpetuate hatred against others. Okay. Right.
Wow.
Okay. Or so like Nazi Germany, well, even worse, like in a nation, it's like Nazi Germany would be like a 10, right? Somebody that just kills people or like has no respect for people they don't even know, never mind that they're arguing with or whatever, right? And then in between there, you have all these subtle distinctions. And I've talked to other African Americans about this, and they talk about this like not to your face racism, though, like a hidden kind of racism that they feel sometimes. And I didn't believe it at first. And then I thought to myself, that's interesting, because I started to see it a little bit once I was made aware of it. And then, because I'm a white guy, I don't think about that much what other white people are saying. But then I started to notice it. Like I remember, these little things. And then there's these little ticks. There's the fetishization of other races. That's on that spectrum. Like you hear guys, oh, I've always wanted to be with an Asian woman, or what? What does that mean? What does an Asian woman mean?
Right. What's the difference? Huh?
No, not what the difference is, but like this fetish, like she's Oriental, or like it's like a fetish. There's all these little things that are on the racist spectrum, right?
I got you. I like. Oh yeah, that's interesting.
And it's like you look at it, and it's like, And one of the things that interested me years ago, I don't know if it was 5 or 6 years ago, I was in Durham, South Carolina, or Durham, North Carolina, one of the Carolinas. It's called Durham, and we were out bar hopping one night. And we were out and we were going from place to place. We had dinner, went to this other bar, whatever, right? And then we were walking down the street and we saw this nightclub. So we went to go in the nightclub. And in front of the nightclub is this African-American bouncer. And we walk up. I'm from Toronto. My buddy's from Minnesota. We walk up and we don't know the politics of the South at all. And that the city's basically still divided on racial lines, okay? So I said, yeah, I want to go in. He's like, you sure you want to go in, boy? I'm like, yeah, what's the big deal? It's a nightclub, right? He's like, yeah, okay, go on ahead. Right. So I paid the $10. I walk in and everybody was black.
Okay.
In the place. Okay.
Yeah.
So we look at each other and I realized that I had never been in a place where everyone was black. And then I thought about it for a second, and I realized that black people have to be in a lot of places where everyone's white, though.
Definitely.
But white people don't ever go the other way.
Wow, that's different. That's heavy when you think about it.
Like it never goes the other way, right?
Yeah. Very seldom. Like you said, you stumbled into it.
Yeah, like, by accident.
How did the evening go?
Oh, we had a great time, man. We had we had a great time. It was actually the best party in town. Everywhere else was dry. And so we stopped for a second. We were in shock because this is the racist spectrum, right? I'm on the racist spectrum, right? Like everybody else. And I walked in, I was like, oh my God, I'm white. And these people are all black. What do I do now? Run! Right?
First thought process.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. And people say, oh, well, you know what? Anyone that tells me so a white guy from Uxbridge, Ontario does that, I don't buy it, buddy. You've never actually, most people have never been in a situation like that are white people. So I said, let's get a beer, man. Screw it. We can't walk out of here, man. That's so uncool. Right?
Yes.
So we went and had a beer. We ended up talking to these people. This guy's like, come in here. We went into the VIP area and we partied with these guys for the night and we had a blast, dude.
That's what I was going to say. More than likely, more times than not, they're going to take you kind of under their wing and show you a good time.
Yeah, dude.
For the most part.
We started talking to these guys at the bar and we were talking to them and they're like, yeah, we're going to go over here. And then, just talking about all sorts of stuff, all topics, cars, girls, basketball, the Raptors, because I'm from Toronto. So then we ended up, it's like, hey, you guys come with me. You guys come with me.
Man. Congratulations on the championship. Yeah,
it was big day. So, but I mean, I think one of the problems is that the idea of these boundaries, and they're kind of like social geographical boundaries that Americans don't want to cross with one another.
Yeah, I agree. I get it. Yeah, that story says a whole lot. For me, racism, I really, outside of anything hidden, I really only experienced it one time. It was the first time I went to record music. I was 16 years old. Me and my little group I was in, we went to record in this little town called Skiatook, Oklahoma. And it's so funny because the guy we went and recorded with, he was like a TV. He was like a kids TV legend. They used to come on. He used to have dressed up like a cowboy and all that, and we called him Uncle Zeke.
Okay.
And we didn't realize it was Uncle Zeke at the time, and it was like Uncle Zeke. So we record our song, and Skiatook is probably from where we live, North Tulsa, maybe a 20-minute drive. And for some reason, in our knucklehead, we were kids. We decided we were going to walk home. And we had like DJ equipment. But we were so excited. We had made our first song. We were going to walk home. Nobody wanted to call their parent. So we started walking. And as we were walking, you have to kind of walk on along the main street. And we just kind of noticed that all the people that were driving by, they were white and they were just looking. And we still just kept walking. So we got to a convenience store. Never forget. some boys and some guys in a red pickup truck. They rolled down the window. They were driving. They slowed down, rolled down the window, and screamed out, "Look how black they are!" And boy, I was like, man, dude, you talk about busting a U. I mean, we busted a U and went right back to the studio and called a ride home. But it made you realize that, you got to be careful because everybody, it exists. That was a long time ago, and I've been to that Skytook plenty of times, and I'm sure still people like that, but not nearly like it was back in that day and age, But it can get crazy. It could get crazy. But for me, I was blessed again, because that was the worst I ever dealt with. And that was really on a scale of 1 to 10, of probably a 1.
Sure,
because that wasn't very.
No,
much,
that's about a 4 or 5 on the scale. To
show that 4 or 5?
Yeah, to show that someone from a car. I don't know, man. Maybe it's a 3, but I think it's healthy to look at it as a spectrum, because this either or forces people into a closet where they can't do honest self-appraisal.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like another one would be like, don't want my child to date someone of another race. That would be on the spectrum.
Yes, definitely.
Right? Like a secret kind of, thing. And I'm not saying that any of this stuff, like all these feelings that people have, are right or wrong. What I'm saying is that it's a spectrum and we're all on it. And it's healthy to think about it that way.
Yes. And a lot of it, again, is like you said, some of it you're born with, but a lot of it is just taught. A lot of it is you just see what's going on in your environment, and that's kind of what you conform to until you become old enough or strong enough to say, you know what, that doesn't make any sense. I'm not living by that creed. I'm not living by that code. And most people are not strong enough to do it. And so they continue to live a certain way. That doesn't mean that they're, a 10 on the spectrum.
Sure,
but they might be a 3, and they may stay at that 3.
Yeah.
Until further notice,
But you know what the tragedy of the whole thing is? This racism, the religious conflicts of the world, everybody suffers, dude. Nobody wins this crap.
That's true. And at the end of the day, what are we resolving? What good is it bringing to the world? Nothing. Because if you say that the majority of, like, definitely overseas, the majority of things that are happening are religious based. It's like, what religion are we? What religion is this then? If it's supposed to be, if you want to say, okay, you got Christianity, you got Buddhism, you got Muslims, you got all these religions that are ultimately supposed to be good.
But that's another spectrum. So that's called the group. And my theory is that's the group identity spectrum, right? So if let's say the Sunnis are fighting the Shias in Yemen, right? Right. So you got this. So it's, again, that would be a 9 or a 10 on the spectrum, right?
Yes,
of the group identity battles. And then Ohio State versus Notre Dame would be a 2 or a 1.
That's so good. Yes.
You understand what I mean? Like it's the same. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I identify with this group, and we're going to go to some form of battle with that group to see which group is better than the other group. And if our group wins, we feel good and we party. If our group loses, we feel bad and we got to make changes, right?
Let me ask you this, because in America you got Republicans and Democrats.
Sure.
What would you put that on your spectrum? What's that on the spectrum?
It used to be a 3, now it's a 10, and the reason why it's a 10, I'll tell you why. Because most people don't think about, most Americans don't understand what America does outside of America. Okay?
Okay.
They only hear negative messages from all the other countries in the world about America. They only hear how awful it is, the way that America behaves and all this sort of stuff. They only hear negative messages, right? But the fact is that in the world, America has largely and overwhelmingly been a force for good in the world, and peace and trade, right? Like the best thing that ever happened to China was to join the World Trade Organization, which is supported and perpetuated by America, right?
Okay.
And without that, without America, there's no World Trade Association. Without America, there's no International Monetary Fund. Without America, you're going to have constant wars in Europe and in different places in the world. And America kind of stands there policing. Like right now, I think there's 200,000 American soldiers in Germany just to say to Russia, don't even think about it, or you're going to fight you want to fight these Kentucky boys or what?
What's up? What's up?
You know what I mean? And a lot of Americans don't, say to themselves, pat themselves on the back enough about that. But what the reason why it's a 10 is because the breakdown of political compromise in the United States is so dangerous for the world. You understand what I mean? Like it's dangerous.
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, because you got yeah.
Like it's not just about America, right? But like the whole world relies upon the strength of the American dollar for trade.
Right. Wow.
Right. Like the American, like I think it's 70% of all country to country transactions. So what I mean is like if somebody from China buys something from someone in Nigeria, they buy it in American dollars.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Right? Like 70% of all the transactions between countries is in American dollars. The price of oil is in American dollars. So the world runs on American dollars, and the stability of the American currency is based on the stability of the American government and the strength of its armed forces.
So it has to stay strong.
Yeah, like America, so the breakdown of political compromise, the name calling, the position, the constant ratcheting up of positions further and further apart from one another, the introduction of like racial accusations from both sides and anti this and anti that and all these debates, people are becoming further and further apart from one another. And the mature,
I would agree with that.
The mature idea of elected officials sitting down, Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever, and coming up with real issues to the water in Flint, Michigan. That's a problem that needs to be solved, man.
Right, solved. Definitely.
And the water quality of Flint, Michigan is not a Republican or Democratic issue.
No.
You know what I mean? The problems in South Chicago, with the gun violence in South Chicago, it's completely out of control. The idea that people are pointing political fingers at each other while gang violence is wreaking havoc in South Chicago is it's completely insane to me.
Yeah, and like that no one can just say, hey, let's take a minute here and let's fix some stuff.
Yes.
Let's fix some stuff because we're dealing with, again, real people.
Yes.
Set aside your colors. Set aside the blue and the red, the Republican and Democrat. Let's come together. Let's clean up some messes. Yeah. And it seems so simple, but like you get all the red tape and all the rhetoric and all that like you said, it's a 10. You're right.
No, but it's not a 10 if it was any other country like that in Canada.
No, right. No, true. It's
but
just
because America is so important to the world, dude.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And like
never thought about it like that, but that's powerful.
When the president of the United States, and listen, I'm not an anti-Trump guy. I'm not a pro this guy. I really, there was things about Donald Trump's policies that I like. There was things about Barack Obama's policies that I liked. There was things about both of them I didn't like. But I thought Obama was far more presidential in his behavior. I felt like he was like if I was going to have someone over for dinner, it's going to be Barack Obama and Michelle Obama every day of the week. Right. You know what I mean? Gentleman, polite, nice, good father, good this kind of stuff. I actually, what's interesting about that? I have a theory. I think 100 years from now, Freddie, they're going to be carving Barack's face on Mount Rushmore. And not because, I'll tell you this, not because his policies or anything like that were so great or, or whatever, but because if America stays on a path of thriving and of growing and of, being wealthy, when we're all dead, people looking back on that time will say, he represented something more for America. I agree. Like Thomas Jefferson or George Washington. I think Barack Obama, and I'm not a Democrat or Republican Canadian, but I think he represents a change in the United States, like a mindset shift or like a zeitgeist shift.
Definitely. Yeah, something that something that people thought couldn't happen. So once it happens, it does make you say, "Oh, okay." And that, that goes back to the whole, of course, we know that never would have happened 40, 50 years ago. So things are getting better. Let me ask you this. Now, so we have Democrats and Republicans. How is the political structure in Canada? How does that work?
So we're a parliamentary democracy, and this is a constitutional monarchy, actually. So that our head of state is actually the Queen of England. Okay.
Really?
Yeah. So our head of state is the Queen of England. Now, this is very interesting, and she's represented by somebody called the Governor General, which is an appointed position, and that is the equivalent to the President of the United States. And the benefit of that is that our head of state is not a soiled politician.
Okay. Right? That means he didn't go pound the pavement.
He didn't have to go. He's not political. Yeah. It's not a political post. It's a nonpartisan post, right? So there's an advantage to that. So our prime minister, if America was a constitutional monarchy or a democracy, a parliamentary democracy like Canada, Nancy Pelosi would be the prime minister.
Oh, okay.
So the leader of the House of Congress. So Justin Trudeau, who's the prime minister of Canada, is not a president. He has no executive authority at all. He is simply, there's no branch of executive government in Canada. So that's the difference. And then Canada has four major political parties. We have a centrist party. Well, they call themselves centrist, but they get pulled in different directions, just like America. But America only has two parties, right? And the two-party system has its pros and cons, and a 3 or 4 party system has its pros and cons. So there's a difference there. Canada is more, the average Canadian is more like a Democrat than a Republican. So you guys are further to the right, and your Democrats are closer to the center, and Canada's adjusted a little bit over. So our right wing is not as far right as your wing, and our left wing is further left than your left wing. So it's a little bit adjusted, right? But I mean, that doesn't mean that individuals within that don't think a certain way or whatever. But it is one of those things about Canada that's different. That you want to know the number one difference between Canada and the United States? The number one difference. In Canada, you have the right to healthcare, and you can be licensed to own firearms.
Okay.
In the United States, you have the right to own firearms, and you have the privilege of being able to buy healthcare if you can afford it. Those are two. That's the major differences between our two societies. So if you want Canadians to go to war, if you want to get Canadians really riled up and get them pissed off, tell them we're not going to have universal healthcare for everybody.
Really?
That would be if you want to become a pariah in Canada, like someone that's just totally unelectable. Okay, actually, I would say this is probably true for every rich nation in the world other than the United States. So if you went to Scotland or Sweden or France and you said to them, I'm going to run on a platform of non-equality with healthcare, you would never get elected.
Wow.
You never get elected. I guarantee you that would be a toxic issue. In the United States, I don't see how it's possible for someone to stand up and say, okay, maybe you don't like the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. Maybe the Affordable Care Act is not the right solution. Okay, fine. I'm willing to discuss the solution. But the idea that in a nation like the United States, that not everybody is covered is about as crazy an idea, a horrible, ridiculous idea that I can dream of or imagine. I think that's horrible. I think it's absolutely a travesty that in the richest nation in the world, that you have not been able to have the equality of healthcare debate. Now, the gun issue, that's an issue in the States. I don't know what the answer is because your Constitution gives you the right to bear arms. And in a sense, that right is not to protect your property or to have fun. It's to fight the government if necessary, right? So when you think about that, like America's a nation founded in war. Canada's not a nation founded in war. So
How was the crime in Canada?
Toronto's gone in the same direction as a lot of large metropolises that we have a lot of crime, but we don't have the sprawling ghettos of the United States. So part of the problem with American crime patterns like South Chicago or where you grew up is the vastness and difficulty policing those neighborhoods.
Right. And so you guys don't have as much of that. Yeah.
We don't have the huge swathes. Like most Canadians don't understand that you could probably drive for half an hour through an American ghetto.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Very true. Like mine, you could. Yeah.
Maybe more, maybe longer.
And we're small. Ours is small. You know what I mean? In comparison to, like you said, Chicago or Detroit or some of the other big ones. So yeah, you easily could drive through. You go pretty much Main Street to Main Street. It'll take you about 30 minutes to do it. Yeah, definitely. Wow.
I was in Overtown, Miami, and I was driving through it by accident. I made a wrong turn or something. I can't remember. It's a whole story that I can't remember it right now in the moment why I was there. But I was there, and an African American police officer pulled us over. And we were like, we didn't know what was wrong and whatever. And it was kind of dusky. And he rolled down the window, and he looks in the window and he says, what the hell you boys doing here? And he seriously, yeah. He's like, what? Why are you crazy or something? Like, because you're looking for drugs, you're looking for you know what I mean? Like, well, this is not, I don't see this here. He probably thinking I don't want to fill out the paperwork for you or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you get yourself into trouble here. And he's like,
right.
you go down here, you make a left, and you get on the I-95, and you get the hell out of here, boy. Right. So because we weren't aware, like you can get lost in a ghetto in the United States. It's big, man.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, we don't have that. We don't have that scope like that.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So
differences in countries. It's interesting stuff.
But there's lots of good about America. America's beat themselves up too much. I'm pointing out some of the problems, but America is a force for good in the world, man, and we need more of America in the world. We need America. I don't want to say make America great again, but America could go back to its values in a sense, and adjust some of them, maybe.
I would say, yeah, just try to just do things the right way. Just be right. You know what I mean? Overall, like you say, we do stand for good, but you got those. You're infighting over things sometimes that don't really make sense if you just really would sit down and really think about it. But again, it's been taught to think this way. Sometimes you're taught to think this way and you don't know how to come out of it. And that's a lot of times the problem with creating change. People get, what is the word? They get so used to I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but it's just the way it's always been. It's always been like that. So we change it, then, what's going to happen? Well, something may be better. And once we finally make those changes, then you realize it can be better, but it's hard to get those breakthroughs. I think
what would really help America and the political compromise is to make political action committees illegal. Now, like these PACs.
The PACs. Yeah, the PACs. Right? Yeah.
And some people support some PACs and they don't support other PACs. So when I say like, oh man, no, this is a really good cause over here or whatever. Yeah, but the problem is like, there's too much like the idea that a group of citizens can raise money and then influence the outcome of an election. That's wrong, man.
Yeah, I agree. Because you have your agenda.
Yeah. Yeah. In Canada, there are laws about how much money you can spend in political action committees. I don't know if they're illegal, but it's not to nearly to the same extent it is in the United States, where you have these like groups of people like they're getting money from the coal industry, and the coal industry has the right. The freedom of speech is interpreted as a cash that's buying advertisements to influence people's opinions in a certain way. That's not free speech. That's manipulation.
No, it is. And it's a lot. And we know a lot of those elections come down to manipulation.
Yeah, dude.
Who cannot vote? Who can, let's make sure that this little area right here, it's difficult for them to be able to vote. because there's so many of them. We don't want them to be able to do it. Or, we poured all this money into your campaign. We need you to do this. Make sure this law passed. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, oh man, you're so right.
And the gerrymandering of ridings, so that ridings look like the word gerrymander comes from like a salamander, because this one guy, I can't. His name was Jerry, I think, and I can't remember his last name. But he carved up his riding so that based on areas that different areas vote differently. So he carved up his riding in different ways, and there's a lot of things that Americans are doing to destroy their own democracy. And political action committees is one of them. The gerrymandering is another one. Like, what really offends me, Freddie, is when a politician is so egotistical that he thinks the most important thing for America or the state of Oklahoma or the city of Tulsa or the province of Ontario or Toronto or whatever, the most important thing is that I get elected.
Wow.
They can't live without me.
Right.
Oh my goodness, if that other guy got elected, it's going to be a disaster.
Right.
Yeah, you know what? There's a heck of a lot of people that don't want to vote for you, dude. What does that tell you?
Right. Life is going to go on whether you win or not, right?
Yeah, dude. The state of Oklahoma doesn't need you. The country of America doesn't need Donald Trump. You're not a savior. You're a person that got elected, and this idea that we have to rig the system so that we stay in power, that's so gross to me, dude.
Yeah, that's wild. That's very wild, man.
Like, that's disgusting to me. Yeah, imagine sitting down with your buddies in some back room smoking cigars and you know what, we actually could redivide the district like this,
right?
And then we'll still be in charge after. That's so horrible, man.
It is, and you don't have the buddies or the circle to say, you know what, that's crazy thinking. Stop thinking like that. Go vote. If you win, you win. Let's run a clean race.
How about listening to those wonderful constituents of yours? Find out what their issues are, man, and respect them actually, and go see them as a politician.
Right.
Find out what their needs are. Meet them, go to meet them and earn their vote, man.
Right. There you go. Run it right. Run it clean. But
yeah,
it's getting it's such big business now. I don't know how much of that is really going on now. I mean, you have to, they say, play the game. You got to play the game. And sometimes the game in politics in 2019, 20, big business. And it's done a certain way. And it's hard to run it as clean as you need to, I think. I think they're just trying to win, unfortunately. But
I like the game
out here, man.
I like the game you're playing.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, man. So God bless you, Freddie. We've been talking for an hour and a half, if you can believe it.
Wow. Oh, wow. For real.
Yeah, 90 minutes. We just clipped past 90 minutes here, and I could keep going, but I got to run soon. Listen, man, I'm grateful you exist, man. I really enjoyed speaking with you, brother.
Oh, man, I really enjoyed you. I learned a lot, man. This is I do a lot of podcasts, and
I did all the learning, bud.
No. I did a lot of learning, man. You're very intelligent, man. I love your stance and your thought process on a lot of the issues we talked about. And man, you keep being the leader that you are, man. And I'll keep trying to get people to climb the hump and make every day a Wednesday. That's what I'm gonna do.
Let's celebrate our wins, man. Let's celebrate this
each and every day. Definitely,
yeah, right? Meeting you, having the honor to meet you, man, was a win for me, and I'm very grateful.
Oh man, same here. We're both winning today, buddy. Both winning today.
If you want to start your own podcast out there, folks, if you want to talk to guys like Freddie, you want to do this kind of thing, it's fun as heck, man. It's such an honor for me to get to talk to a guy like Freddie and then all the other wonderful people that have been on my podcast. It's so much fun, man. And at Get a Grip Studios, we try to give you the lowest price we can to do it for you. Honestly, you're not going to find more value. We only charge $200 for an episode, and that includes editing and production and everything, and the studio and the remote, just like I have Freddie right here, from all over the world. You can have up to 8 people, man. You got to go to getagripstudios.com, folks. Freddie, you want to take us out with a little rap here?
I got you. Let's go. Skipping to the money on some hopscotch. Was low level, now we on some top notch. Topic trendsetter had to revamp. I was hiking with them slackers, had to break camp. Catch me on your campus chasing capital. Dropping daily diamond tips are practical. Tactical, my tactics always tactful. Impactful was bashful. Now the place is packed full. And it's me and D Davis on the main stage. Remember, we was broken in that pain stage, but chose to self-assess and got uncomfortable. Back in the days when I was irresponsible. Epiphany happened, call it God's work. Now life is like the lotto, watch them odds work in my favor cause I made the choice to transform. Lord had plans for them, I made it through the sandstorm. They want to know how I got through what I've been through. Tell them I was sinful with swindle. Any soul that came in contact with my personal, but then I made that switch. And now my life is full and purposeful. They wonder why I say it's cause I got a why. And that's the reason why this Wally vet is still the guy. I'm guided by the principles of success. And plus my mama watching over, so I stay blessed. Climb the hump. Make each and every day of your life, my friends, a Wednesday. There you have it.
Boom! That was awesome, man.